Joe Hopkins here, and that's a bold statement. Greatest artist of this generation, but understand what I mean here. Every generation has their popular artists, and they have that one that really represents them as a generation, the one that generation decides, hey, this is the one that speaks for us, the really, really big artist. In the 60s, it was the Beatles. The 70s, Led Zeppelin. And I guess also the Eagles. And the 80s, Michael Jackson, right? Madonna, artists like that. The top ones, the ones that the generation decides, hey, these are the ones that are going to represent us. The really huge ones. And right now, that's Taylor Swift. Because she's done some things that are a little unprecedented. Like when Midnight's came out and she swept the top 10. The whole top 10 was Taylor Swift. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I've seen an album come out and the artist have like a number of songs in the top 10, but the whole top 10, that's the first time I've seen it. Maybe it's happened before, but I don't know. I haven't heard of it. That amazed me. But I'm saying this because I decided, right? I did a video the other day on Dolly Parton's album, Rockstar. And I'm like, well, where is it on the album charts? I'm kind of curious. How's Dolly Parton doing with her new album? Because it's Dolly Parton. She's kind of a legacy artist. You know, it's like she puts out an album and you figure, it'll sell okay. No. I looked today, she's at number 3 on the Billboard album charts. I looked at the song charts and she didn't have a song on the song charts, right? Not really up there on that, but on the album charts, she's number 3. And I was going to talk about the Billboard song charts, but the Billboard website for their top 200 songs froze my computer up and crashed it. I don't know why, but their album chart would come up and then the song chart, like, yeah, that ain't happening. But anyway, what amazed me was, now keep in mind, this time of year, this is the holidays, so something that every time this time of year, the top, charts get a little screwy with Christmas albums, because obviously Mariah Carey, Bing Crosby, Elvis Presley, Vince Guaraldi, they're all on the charts this time of year with their Christmas albums. But let's take a look here. I was looking at right now, number 1 on the album charts is For All the Dogs by Drake, right? And by the way, I'm recording this on November 28th, right? It's going to come out when you're watching it. This was a couple days ago. All right, so number two on the album charts is Taylor Swift, 1989 Taylor's version, because she redid a bunch of her albums because of copyright disputes, which I understand. Apparently her music got sold and she wasn't happy about it or something like that. The label did her dirty and she redid her albums. I think that's a bold move. And they're outselling her, the previous releases, but the previous releases are still up there. So number 2 is Taylor Swift. Like I said, number 3 is Dolly Parton. Well, let's go down through here. Number 6 is Taylor Swift, Midnights, right? Number 8 is Taylor Swift, Lover. Let's go down. Where's the next Taylor Swift? Speak Now, Taylor's version, is at number 17. I'm just doing the top 40, but there's more as you go down. Red, Taylor's version, is at number 23. Reputation, Taylor Swift, is at number 27. You can see why when I looked at this, at 31 is Evermore, Taylor Swift, right above Merry Christmas by Mariah Carey. Obviously, it's going to be in the top 40. It's at 32. Gotta have it on there, right? Barbie soundtrack is still on here, 33. I can see that. And Taylor Swift comes in at 40 at the bottom of the top 40 with Fearless, Taylor's version. And there are a couple more of her albums as you go down through the top 200. So, I mean, she's just dominating the charts. I like the fact that A Charlie Brown Christmas by the Vince Guaraldi Trio is on here at 39. I like that. I love Vince Guaraldi. I still have that CD. That's a great album. Seeing some Christmas jazz on there is nice. But Taylor Swift, she's like dominating this whole thing. So I thought, okay, let me look up, where is Taylor Swift when you look up greatest selling artists of all time, like biggest artists, people who've sold the most. She's at number 16, right above Mariah Carey and right below Rod Stewart and Faces. And if she keeps up the way she's going to pass Rod Stewart and Celine Dion pretty soon. What amazes me about this is number 16, right, on greatest selling of all time. And the artists above her are almost all of them, either their careers are done or they're at the end of their careers. Because let me go over just go up from Taylor Swift. Right above her at 15 is Rod Stewart and Faces, right? He's not doing new stuff. Then you got Celine Dion. Unlikely she'll have any more hits. U2. Also possible hits, but not terribly likely. AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Eminem. I was kind of surprised Eminem was that high, but I can see it. Elton John, Frank Sinatra, Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones, Madonna, Queen, Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, and the Beatles. So that's the list, and she's the only one in the top 20 best-selling artists of all time who is actually in the full swing of her career. So she's moving up pretty hard. Most of the others aren't, except Queen, that bumped up that list a good bit in the last 10 years. Queen has become ridiculously popular in the last decade. Like, they're getting big again. But, you know, it's not like they're putting out new albums. Taylor Swift at this point is likely to move up. I don't know about number one, because to be honest with you, the Beatles, you look down this list, there's the biggest jump between artists is from number 2 to number 1. The difference between the Beatles and Michael Jackson is like about the difference of 80 million units sold. And that's the biggest jump I see here. So number 1 being the Beatles, I don't know. That's a tall order, but I don't doubt that she's going to make the top 10 by the time her career is over. Because you got to consider, I don't think there's anything she could say or do at this point that would upset people so bad that they would stop buying her albums. I just don't see it happening. This is the voice of our generation. And you see, like in those top artists, the voices of previous generations. I don't know where Nirvana is on here. I mentioned Nirvana for the 90s. But you have to consider they only had 3 albums, you know, rather short career. As far as albums go, is it Bleach, Nevermind, and In Utero? 3 like studio releases. So, you know, that makes it kind of hard. Most of these other artists had long careers and Nirvana didn't, but Taylor Swift's career is still going. What amazes me though, about when you actually start looking at best-selling albums of all time. And by the way, the Beatles have 2 of their like compilation albums on the Billboard top 200 albums, right? What amazes me about some of this, like the Beatles did that from 1962 to 1970. In 8 years, they put out like 12 studio albums, and they did all that in 8 years, which is amazing to me. You know, and of course, a lot of compilations and best subs and that stuff have come out since then, but we're talking about the actual span of their career. Most of these people had longer careers than that, and Taylor Swift obviously is having a longer career than that. Even if somebody were to pass the Beatles, the fact that they did that in an 8-year span is just amazing, right? And I'm saying 8 years, from 1962 with their first like release in the UK up to 1970 when they broke up. So, you know, that's amazing to do that, to accomplish that much in such a short career. But I think Taylor Swift, yeah, for this generation, I haven't seen anything like this. This is unprecedented, you know? She's bigger than Nirvana was. She's bigger than U2 was. She's bigger than, you know, than a lot of these artists at their height. She's up there with like the Beatles and Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson. And even with Michael Jackson, you got to think he came out of the Jackson 5. He had a pretty big career before it really hit with Thriller. And I mean, I know he was a huge artist before that, but Thriller was the album that made him the artist of the 80s, you know, and into the 90s, really. But yeah, so I mean, Taylor Swift, she's had a pretty good long career too. started in country and went over to pop. But I'm just looking at this. I'm just amazed at how much of her stuff is just, she dominates the Billboard charts. Just is dominating it. Like nothing I've ever seen before. The fact that all of her older albums, and not all of them are the re-releases. I understand you do a re-release and with a popular artist and it'll make the charts again. But these are, they're not all her re-releases, you know what I mean? And they're not all her newer stuff either. Like her older albums are still on the top 200 charts. Her older albums, a couple of them are still on like the top 40. It is pretty cool to see. And, you know, it's worth mentioning. It's worth talking about. Anyway, that's just what I was doing this morning, checking that out. So, you know, wanted to do a video about it because I found it kind of shocking, surprising. I'm glad I went to see her Eras tour in theaters when I saw the movie version. You know, I did a review on it. But anyway, tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment, man. What do you think of Taylor Swift? What do you think of the idea that Taylor Swift is going to probably pass some of these other artists, man? Maybe she'll be number 2 or 3 someday. Maybe she'll pass Elvis Presley, you know? Anyway, what do you think? Leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you on the next video. I love you guys. Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.